Yo, what's up? Remember that I mentioned a broken archer build a couple of weeks ago, and then later on in my Discord I explained that I actually want to wait a little bit more because I actually didn't want GGG to find out about the build. So that's why I waited for the Scourge League reveal, because the build that I played a couple of weeks ago, this build that you are gonna watch, was just only being played by 3 people total in the entire world, and one of them was me. So it was actually a hidden build and it survived. Nothing changed at all. So get ready to watch some ridiculous powerful archer build after all the 3.15 nerfs, and it is not even super expensive at all. You will see that I haven't even used Battle Fate. I just used it on a single Sirus combat just to show you the DPS. The build can easily kill every boss in the game, including feared, but there are obviously a couple of luxury expensive upgrades, but in the end the final version of the build won't be more than 100 exalt. It's gonna be somewhere between 50 and 100 exalt, which is not crazy if you ask me, because leagues last around 3 months, and even a casual player, if you play efficiently, you can farm at least 50 exalt in a month, maybe 2 months, let's say. So everyone can finish this build. It's not super expensive. Most of the meta or maybe some other non-meta builds, the min-max versions are like 200 exalt at least. So this is a fairly cheaper build compared to those. So let's just start watching the clips first. Then I will be back here explaining all the gear, the gems, the combinations that we are using. I'm not maybe gonna mention the talent tree that much, because it is gonna get changed in 3.16. We still don't have the path of building ready right now, so I cannot do anything about that. Maybe I will just show you a couple of notables that we pick, maybe something like that. So I will try to keep the video maybe a little shorter than usual. So let's just start. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and maybe join my Discord if you want to chat with me and other players. And I will see you in a bit.
enjoy our contests.
Alright, now I will start explaining the build, all the things that I used, so you can understand better what you are playing. First of all, obviously, if you are maybe a new player, maybe you don't know everything about this game, there is a program called Path of Building that you need to install on your computer. That is where we actually track other players' builds, and that's also where I'm going to share this build. So it's a program that you can actually see all the items, talent tree, flasks, DPS, all kind of calculations in your computer without even logging into the game. So if you don't know that, just go and download it. It is in the description, the link, and also the builds link is also in the description. So that is what you need to use to track everything and see the build. All right. So this is just a heads up for new players if you don't know that. So let's start with the mechanics and why this build does ridiculous DPS even after all the changes. So the core item is a Voltaxic Rift Bow. This is fairly cheap bow, no one even plays with this. There are like obviously a couple of fans every league, but this is not a popular bow, and there's also cards for this build, so it is very easy to acquire even at a league start. But I will just also show you another core item, so that's why I'm gonna start explaining with that. Eternity Shroud chest piece. So this is something that drops from Uber Elder, so in a new league you need to wait a couple of weeks, maybe something like probably 2 weeks. So this is gonna be a common drop on the market, so you can just get one and then later on maybe start playing with this build. So this is not a league starter build, obviously. You should first of all get some of the core items so the build can actually work. So Eternity Shroud is a chest that requires you to have Shaper influenced items. Those items will have a red star, something like that, icon on their borders, and the background of the items are gonna be star galaxy themed. Alright, so you can say that those items are Shaper based. So per Shaper item equipped, gain elemental damage as extra chaos damage, and if your all items are Shaper influenced, you will ignore enemy monster chaos resistances. So that is what we are gonna focus on. So first of all, you absolutely don't need a full Shaper set to start playing this build. Try to get as much as Shaper items that you can, maybe a gloves, boots, amulet, alright. Just skip the rest if they are expensive, or maybe you are at a league start, maybe you just started this build with like 10 Exile or 20 Exile, so maybe you cannot finish every piece, because you in the end even want to make your unique items Shaper influenced. I will also explain how to do those in this video, obviously. So with a lower investment, you will probably miss those unique items because they are gonna be the most expensive stuff for this build. Most rare items are like only a couple of exiles each. The endgame versions, that's what I used actually. Some of them are even less than an exile. But some of the uniques are gonna be a little expensive. That's why you want to finish them later on. That means that you actually will play without a full Shaper set at first with a lower budget. So you will miss that penetration, chaos damage bypass, whatever, from the Eternal Shroud, which will obviously reduce your DPS a little bit, but not a big deal. I even killed, I think, a Minotaur or maybe something else. I will just put the clip again right now, without a full set, with way cheaper gear. So the DPS is still crazy, but in the end, obviously, if you want to just destroy everything, you need to finish the full Shaper set. So the main weapon is a Voltaxic Rift. You can just get a non-Shaper one for only like a couple of chaos, even at a league start, because again, this is not a popular bow, and there's also a card that drops this, and that's why this is a fairly cheap and common unique. So lightning damage convert to chaos damage, some attack speed, chance to shock. Your chaos damage can shock enemies as though dealing 300% more damage, and also your shocks can increase the damage taken by up to 100%. So this means that, so if you don't know, shock is a debuff from lightning damage, but with this bow also from chaos damage, so it also works for chaos damage. And because also we are using Eternal Shroud, we will have way more chaos damage than we should have. So we can just shock with all those kind of damages. And shock is a debuff that actually increases the damage taken to the enemy, So it's a more damage multiplier. That means that the higher the shock percentage, the effect is, the more damage you can deal. So after 3.15 they actually added a support in the game, so you can actually see how much shock, chill, ignite effect, you know, whatever, scorch, brittle, those kind of ailments, how much you apply those on enemies if you just hover your mouse on the enemy. So it can also be a boss, so you can actually check how much shock you can apply. So you will know that your build is fine once you gear your character. You will just see those 100% shocks on those even bosses, you know. But without the full set, you will see something like 60 or 70%, I believe, which is still fine. So once you shock the boss, you will just start destroying the boss, because you will have so much more damage going on. Because this bow has shock enemies as though dealing 300% more damage, so you will actually deal, it will just gets calculated like you are dealing way more damage, so you can just achieve that 100% shock easier. So the build is based around shock, chaos damage, lightning damage, those kind of stuff. This is also a crit build. This is a bow build, so anything that works with bow, attack speed, crit strike, chaos damage, crit multiplier, elemental damage, flat lightning damage to attacks, because we want to get lightning damage mostly and convert that to cold damage, chaos damage, pardon. But cold damage and fire damage also works, but they are weaker stats. So these are gonna be the stats that we focus on our items. So let's just explain the skills that we are using right now, so you will have better understanding of the shock mechanic, and then I will finish rest of the gear. So the main skill, actually we have two main skills, let's just show both of them at the same time. Lightning arrow for clear, this is the skill that we are using, we are casting, you know, ourselves. So this is those blue arrows that we shoot a lot of them at the same time, so that just helps us clear maps. So lightning arrow is a skill that deals lightning damage on its own, so good for this build, and also hits up to 3 additional enemies near the target. So you will notice that some lightning strikes happening around the target, so it has a better clear compared to most arrow skills. Plus I am using chain support, plus I am playing Deadeye and she has another chain, so once I shoot an arrow it just gonna get chained to other enemies and just destroy whole screen. So this is our clear skill, you will just use this all the time while mapping. But for the single target we are using Storm Rain, but we are not using the skill ourselves, you know. We are using Ballista Totem support with Focused Ballista support. This is a new support that has been introduced in 3.15 and simply broken in my opinion in these kind of builds. So normally if you use a Ballista Totem with an arrow skill, it will just, the ballistas will just use the skill without, they don't need you to do anything normally. But if you need a Focused Ballista support, you actually need to attack, then the ballista will also attack to the same target. But Focus Ballista have 35% more attack speed. It is not increased attack speed, so that means that it is actually way better. That's why more actually is better, because it is a multiplier. That's how it gets calculated. That's why the ballistas will actually attack way faster compared to a regular ballista without Focused Ballista. So once you start attacking with your lightning arrow, before obviously you want to put your totems near the boss, they actually can attack from very far away. But we are also using point blank support keystone on the talent tree. That's why you may want to put your totems as close to possible, you know, as close as possible to the boss, because they will also get affected from that point blank. So they need to be close. Try to do that. But on some hard bosses like Feared, those kind of bosses that there are lots of damage going on in the arena, you know, you can actually put the totems maybe far away so they don't die. Maybe lose a little bit of DPS because of point blank, how point blank works. But you can also do that, so it is fine in the end. So once you start attacking with lightning arrow, your totems will also start using Storm Rain, and they will just you will notice those Storm Rains stacking on the ground. So Storm Rain is a skill that can stack up to 100 arrows in the ground, but obviously not all of them actually gets overlapped at the same time, as far as I know. Because if you can overlap 100 arrows, if that is possible, we would have more than 40-50 million DPS. I'm not sure if that happens. So more likely maybe like 60 arrows, I believe. I'm not really sure because we cannot calculate it. So most of the arrows are gonna get overlapped. So each arrow maybe deals like 1 million damage, but once they just stack at the same time, not 1 million, maybe like half a million, let's say. But once you stack like 60 of them, you will have like 30-40 million even DPS. So you need a little ramp up time. You need to put your ballistas and start attacking with lightning arrow, shock the target, and let those storm rains stack. And some bosses obviously move around, so maybe you will lose some DPS on those bosses. But most end game bosses, all the Conquerors, Shaper, Sirus, Uber Elder, they all stand still. They don't even move unless you use a bear trap or something, because that actually bugs some bosses. So you can even make Shaper walk around the arena. So that is something that most people don't know. So yeah, it's a funny bug. But yeah, normally most bosses don't even move. So you can just delete them in a couple of seconds once you ramp up those stacks. So that's how we are gonna play this build. While mapping, if you need some extra kick, extra single target DPS, just use a couple of totems, spawn them before doing what you are doing. But most of times lightning arrow is enough once you gear your character, and can even kill beyond bosses, essence monsters, even the map boss. You can even do that once you have enough gear. But just use those ballistas whenever you want that extra single target DPS, and that's how you kill bosses. So I already showed you the Voltaxic Rift Bow and Eternity Shroud, but I will just mention a thing about Voltaxic Rift. In the end, you also need to obviously get your unique items Shaper influenced. So how to do that? So you just need to get the base type of the item. We also have 2 more unique items that I will explain later. So you just want to get a base, non-unique obviously, because it is hard to find a Shaper influence unique normally. So because let's take a look at Voltaxic Rift, it is a spine bow, alright, it is the base type of that weapon. So you just want to get a spine bow with Shaper influence. Just buy a random bow, the modifiers don't even matter. It needs to be non-corrupted obviously. People just pick up those from ground and put for like 1 chaos, 5 chaos, because they don't know, because they are usually bad items. Just get a random spine bow with Shaper influence. After that you can do 2 things. First, using Orb of Chance on a white item, you first need to use Orb of Scouring obviously. Use Orb of Chance because Orb of Chance has a chance to actually make the item unique, but it is very rare actually. It sometimes takes thousands of tries. So if you care about your fingers health or your mouse health, just get a Trash to Treasure prophecy. It is most of the times like 5 Exalt on most leagues. Yes, it is a little expensive, but these are the min-max of the build. I actually already explained this at the start. If you want to also make your character full Shaper set in the end, the unique items are gonna be the most expensive ones. So these are your how to min-max your build, alright? Just get a Trash to Treasure prophecy. It says that you can actually use Orb of Chance single time and bam, the item is gonna be unique. Because there is only 1 spine bow, a unique spine bow, and it is Voltaxic Rift. That is the only unique spine bow in the game. You will just get a Voltaxic Rift 100% sure with a single Orb of Chance usage with a Trash to Treasure prophecy. So you can just do that. If you are even crazy, you can use Awakener Orb on a Shaper influenced spine bow or another bow and get another bow with another influence like a Crusader, but one of the bows must be spine bow. And even do some double influence bows just because they look cool actually. They won't provide anything extra because you just need Shaper influence. But you can even do Shaper plus Crusader, Shaper plus Hunter, whatever the combination that you want, because it looks good. It is just for some visual aesthetic. I actually did that on my Doomflash bow and it looks crazy. I just like it. So you can do something like that in the end if you are crazy. Just go for that. And that is how to finish that bow actually. So let's continue with the other equipment. Quiver. First of all, I highly recommend you to play with spike point quivers because they provide crit strike chance. You can obviously get something else if they are cheaper, because spike points are obviously the #1 choice for archer builds. That is why they are going to be a little bit extra expensive. You obviously want Shaper Influence on your items because bow attacks, fire and additional arrow exist on Shaper Influences already. This is a very easy quiver to find because everyone crafts these. This is like a common item for archer builds. So main stats, bow attack, fire and additional arrow, some life. If you lower the life, it's going to be way cheaper. If you just type something with at least 70 or 80, the quiver will just go above 10 exalt instantly. So if you want to get something for a couple of exalts, just don't type life or type a crafted life, so something like 40 or 50 life. That quiver is going to be way more cheap, alright? And crit multiplier is another number one stat. And attack speed or elemental damage attack, or both at the same time. Just start to fill in those stats depending on your budget. In the end, quiver something like this will just carry you all the way. One big note here: if you cannot afford a spike point quiver, or maybe you want to craft it on your own, maybe you wanted to craft another base type for some reason, do not ever, never, alright, craft a penetrating arrow quiver. That just destroys all your clear speed, because penetration comes first before chain happens, and you will lose those chains sometimes. That is how projectiles work. Penetration is number one priority compared to chain. Do not even get any pierce from somewhere, alright? Don't make that mistake. That's why in the end, spike point quivers are your best choice, because they also provide crit strike chance. Helmet Asenat Chant. This is a fated item that you need to use a prophecy on a Asenat mark and then kill the required target and upgrade it to Asenat Chant. So here are the questions that you are gonna possibly ask. If I have a Asenat Chant, not Asenat Chant, Asenat mark, you know, the first base with Shaper Influence, if I use a prophecy to upgrade it to Asenat Chant, will it still keep the enchant or even the Shaper Influence? Both questions, yes. So you can just get a Asenat mark with Shaper. Sometimes people just find it from cards and they don't even know how much that's worth. I sometimes buy them for like 1 exalt and flip them easily. Just buy a Asenat mark with Shaper Influence and use the prophecy Song of Sekehema, I believe that's the name, and convert it to Asenat Chant, and it will still be Shaper Influenced. So you can do that. If you want to again maybe use Orb of Chances, you can also do that on a Iron Circlet Shaper Influenced. But the downside for this item is there are actually 2 different unique Iron Circlets in the game. That's why this is not like Voltaxic Rift. You don't have a 100% chance to get this helmet. So if you fail and get the other one, just get another Iron Circlet and try again. So this is gonna be a little harder to find, you know, the Asenat Chant with Shaper. So make sure you leave this item maybe for the last, you know. Make sure this is gonna be your last upgrade maybe, because you may need to spend some extra. So about this helmet, nothing to explain that much actually. You maybe probably already know this helmet. This is a fairly popular and common helmet that everyone uses, most archer builds. Trigger a socketed spell when you attack with a bow with a 0.3 second cooldown and some other stats that we don't need most of them, but attack speed and movement speed obviously works. So we want to use some spells in this and they're gonna get triggered automatically once we attack with a bow, which is all the time. So the skills that we are using: Assassin Mark Curse. This is our curse choice for this build. Provides lots of crit strike chance. Once you have the budget, get an Anomalous Assassin Mark because it is better, because it provides increased damage taken. Hydrosphere. If you attack Hydrosphere, you can actually, you know, chain the arrows. If they haven't nerfed it, I couldn't find anything in the Scourge patch notes. But yes, that's how that works. So this just helps with some extra clear while mapping. But we actually also use some support gems, so it actually boosts Hydrosphere sphere for bosses. And the other 2 gems in this helmet, innervate support, but a divergent one. That is super important. If you cannot find a divergent innervate yet, do not use innervate because that won't work. Because divergent says 4% chance to gain innervation when you shock a unique enemy with support skills. Normally you cannot gain innervate before killing anything, because it says gain innervation on killing a shocked enemy with support skills on the main innervate gem. But if you use a divergent, you can actually get innervation with a 4% chance when you shock a unique enemy. So you want the Hydra Sphere to also shock, and with that 4% chance, it is obviously RNG. Sometimes you cannot get it fast enough on a boss, and the boss just dies anyways. But if you get lucky and also get that innervation, you will have some additional added lightning damage, so you will have even more DPS. Another important thing here, you want to use a level 20 or even 21 Hydrosphere. Normally on these kind of builds, you just use a level 1 Hydrosphere because you just use it for that chain effect happening in the maps. But for this build, you actually want that Hydrosphere to hit a little bit, so it can actually shock the target. If you use a level 1 Hydrosphere, you cannot shock because it will deal no damage at all. So make sure you get a 20 or 21 level Hydrosphere, so it can actually score a shock. And if you are lucky, you will also get that innervate. And finally, 4th gem, Culling Strike. Once Hydrosphere also attacks the target, it will just cull the target if the boss or the target have lower than 10% HP. So that way you can easily kill endgame bosses faster. And this was about the helmet. Next item, gloves. For the base type, I like gripped gloves because they provide projectile attack damage. Again, Shaper influenced. These are very easy to craft, and sometimes you can even buy them from someone else because people just find these on the ground. So the good stats are life, resistances, and attack speed. That's pretty much it. That is what I used. This glove was like 50 chaos actually. Some of my items are super cheap. You can even use double influence in the end if you are a good crafter and even min-max this build. I had something like 30-40 million DPS with like 60-70 beams if they actually overlap. I'm not really sure again because we can't know. You can even maybe have some more than 50 or 60 million if you use double influence items, even have a crazy gear, more crazy gear, you know, compared to mine. Because again, my gear was not crazy actually. This is a broken build, and I want everyone to play this if you are a fan of archers in 3.16. You can easily craft these kind of items, gloves, and also boots, we are gonna check later on, with essences. I will just show you a couple of essences on the screen. Just use whatever you want and try to get other stats by luck, obviously. But in the end, attack speed, life, and resistances are enough. Boots, again, Shaper influence. Two-tone boots are good because they provide resistances, but you can also get some good evasion base boots if you want. Again, life, resistances, and movement speed. Nothing even special. This is again a cheap item. You can even combine Shaper and Redeemer if you want with Awakener orb, then craft later on with a boot with also elusive on crit. Elusive is getting reworked in 3.16, but it will still provide some avoid damage taken, so it is good for these kind of builds. So that's why you can also do that if you are a good crafter. Use some harvest craft because that is how to craft elusive boots. You can also do that or even get something else, but that is something that I think that it's good. It is good actually, but this is actually was my boot, you know, nothing even special. For the enchant, lightning damage, if you haven't killed recently, is very good for boss fights because this is a lightning build and provides huge DPS. Amulet. For the base type, you need some strength and mostly intelligence, so try to get a base that gives at least intelligence. All right, intelligence is very important. It is very hard to cap your intelligence otherwise, so your amulet must provide intelligence. For the stats, this is a lightning build, but my amulet was not providing lightning damage actually because I didn't try that much, and this is what I ended up using. I just used Essence of Scorn to get some crit multiplier on a Shaper base Onyx amulet. Found some decent flat damages. Again, this is a lightning build, but also flat cold damage and flat fire damage. Those kind of flat damages also work, but they have obviously a lower impact, but they still work. So an amulet with crit multiplier, flat damage, lightning is obviously best, and maybe life, resistances, and that's it. For the anoint, I picked Constitution because I wanted more life for my character. If you don't need more life, if you want more DPS, just check path of building, because it actually shows you what to anoint. You can just find it at the bottom side, show power report, and check what gives the most DPS for your character. Some of your on some of your maybe jewelry, you can put minus mana cost to skills to make things easier. That actually helps a lot, so try to do that on your amulet or your ring. My rare ring was a steel ring. This is something that I used on my Doomflash build, and I haven't even bothered crafting a new one. So I actually don't recommend you to get a steel ring. It works, but again, this is a lightning build, so actually an opal ring. That's opal ring, right? I am right now confused, but I will just put the picture on the screen. So this ring is actually better in the end, in my opinion, but you can just check path of building. Maybe I am wrong, but normally that should provide more DPS. Or just use a ring that has resistance on its implicit. So something that gives DPS, maybe an opal ring. After that, again, try to craft maybe with essences or just buy from someone else, because there are lots of shaper rings on the market. But good stats are, again, flat damage. Lightning is obviously number one. You can even use essence to craft that. That's the picture is gonna be on the screen. Life, elemental damage with attacks, and resistances. That's pretty much it. My ring also had aspect of cat, but it is for my actually other build. Again, I actually did a Doomflash build first, then played this build, so some of the items are actually similar. You don't need aspect of cat if that is what you are seeing on the screen right now. So we don't use aspect of cat on this build, so that's a useless stat, so don't try to craft that, alright? And the other ring, so first of all, at league start, maybe use another shaper rare ring. Even use an assassin mark ring, and to use maybe something else on your Asenat chant, because assassin mark also exists on shaper influence rings, so you can also do that if you don't want to put that on your Asenat helmet. But in the end, the main this is probably the most expensive item, by the way, a Call of Brotherhood ring with shaper influence. Why is this super expensive? First of all, let's talk about that. There are actually two different 2-stone rings with cold and lightning resistances. One is a Barrack ring, a shit ring, and one is a Call of Brotherhood. So even if you use Orb of Chances or Trash to Treasures, you have two options in the end, so sometimes you cannot get Call of Brotherhood. I actually did a gamble in the final weeks of the league and wasted 40 Exiles and didn't get a single Call of Brotherhood. Yes, that shit happened. So I highly suggest you to maybe buy this if you see it for cheap, just snipe one as soon as possible. But if you think you are lucky, if you think that I am unlucky, go ahead and waste your money. But I spent more than 40 Exile and didn't get a single Call of Brotherhood. That's why I highly recommend you to maybe buy one, because in this game actually, so let's just explain this maybe if you don't know how that works. Yes, there are two different 2-stone rings, but the percentage is not 50%. It is similar to Headhunter Orb of Chancing. Let's say that there are 5 items for that item pool. You don't have actually 20% chance to get each of them. Some of them are like 5%, maybe even 1% chance, because every item has a different drop rate in this game. And I believe Call of the Brotherhood is way more rare, compared to a Barrack ring. That's probably why I wasted 40 Exalt and didn't get any. So you can just snipe one and maybe save your money. Don't even waste that on a gamble, alright? So why are we using this ring in the end? Lightning damage convert to cold damage. Your spells have 100% shock against frozen enemies. So the main stuff is conversion. So let's just also explain that really quick, because maybe you will say, why do we need conversion? Is it to shatter enemies? Yes, that is one of the reasons, but actually not the reason that I am using this. If you are not familiar about how Eternity Shroud works, Eternity Shroud actually gets calculated more than once if you have different elemental damage types happening with conversion. So because it has 5% elemental damage gained as extra chaos damage per item equipped, if you have a lightning damage, that is what we are using, if you convert some of that to cold damage with this ring, that bonus will get calculated again for that cold damage. And even if you convert that cold to fire damage in the end, it will just get calculated again, but we are not doing that in this build. So Eternal Shroud actually has a bugged mechanic, and it is gonna get fixed in POE 2, but we don't even know when that will happen. It has been more than 1 year maybe once, you know, since they announced POE 2, but it is not still happening, because they actually mentioned that they are gonna fix and change how conversion works in this build, and that is when Eternal Shroud will actually probably gonna get nerfed. So right now it is still working like this, so that's why I call off Brotherhood. I will just check it in the Path of Building right now, but you are probably don't seeing that, aren't watching that, you know. Boom, I just lost 6 million DPS from a single Call of Brotherhood. So this is simply broken right now, and definitely worth that 20 Exile, 30 Exile, whatever investment. So make sure you buy one with a Shaper influence in the end, because that will provide huge amount of DPS, because how that works right now in the game. Finally, belt. For the base type, in the end you obviously want a Stygian vise because they have a socket, but these are expensive because Shaper Stygian vises are expensive. So at first maybe use a leather belt or a heavy belt for some strength. So use a different base that is cheaper. Your stats are life, resistances, and elemental damage with attacks. You can also craft these with Pristine plus Prismatic Fossil. That is a very easy way to craft these kind of belts. That is how I crafted my Shaper Stygian vise. So on a 2-socket resonator, use those fossils. It shouldn't take much tries. You can even get elemental damage, not with attacks. There is another elemental damage prefix, I believe. Maybe it is suffix, I'm not sure right now. On Shaper bases. So you can even get that and even put elemental damage with attacks on the same item to get more DPS. I couldn't do that, I was unlucky. So this was my belt actually. And also make sure you use a jewel, Abyss jewel in this item, because it has an Abyss socket, life, crit multiplier, or maybe some flat damage, flat lightning, or any resistances you are missing. In this part we are gonna take a quick look at the Path of Building, but I'm not gonna talk about the talent tree that much because it is gonna get changed in a week, because the Path of Building still didn't get any update. So this is not the new talent tree. So some things are gonna get changed. If you are a good theory crafter, once the patch is out, maybe you can do a talent tree and send me in my Discord. Maybe I'll just check it, because I right now don't know how to update some of this portions on this talent tree sections, whatever. So the main stuff that is changing is acrobatics. This is a dodge character, but dodge is getting removed, so this is gonna be a different after the patch. There is also gonna be a spell suppression added. They are adding it in the game. Acrobatics or phase acrobatics, one of them is actually gonna provide convert spell suppression to spell dodge. So maybe we will still get this maybe, but we want to get some spell suppression from talent tree and maybe items. So I will just put notes maybe here where to get spell suppression, maybe stuff like that. So again, if you are a good theory crafter, please share your opinion once the patch is out, once the talent tree Path of Building is ready, so we can figure out how to invest. Maybe we will lose some DPS, maybe we won't get some of the DPS sections, because the build already has ridiculous damage. Maybe we can focus on more survival, more defense after the patch. So if nothing changes, I will just explain where I put some of the jewels, but again the talent tree is getting changed. Maybe some of these are not gonna be accurate after the patch, we don't know. So a line I fold jewel here, because it normally you can normally get these notes, let's say, because it is in the radius. But if something changes, if the talent tree just moves a little bit to the left or whatever, maybe this won't work. Again, I'm not sure, maybe this part of the video might be wrong, alright? It can be changed after 3.16 because talent tree is getting reworked. I am warning you again. That's why I'm gonna be quick right now. So Line I Fold provides converts melee weapon type modifiers to bow modifiers, because there are claw modifiers here that grants huge crit strike chance and multiplier. These are gonna get actually converted to bow modifiers. That's why you want to use this jewel on this location and get these claw modifiers. So they're going to be actually bow modifiers in the end. So a little pride, you don't need this, but this absolutely helps in the end. First of all, for all these small points, this jewel actually provides lots of strength. So just check my strength. I'm just gonna remove the gem. Bam. I lost half of my strength maybe. So this is a very good way to keep your strength. But we are not using this just for the strength. So first of all, the commander doesn't matter. Yeah, this is a Kaom little pride. You can get Akoya, or I don't remember the other name. Rakish, whatever, something like that, alright. Ralakesh, I believe. Never mind. You don't need the commander because we are not using any keystones. We just want the passives that are happening in these notables. So I just edited these on my own because that is what my jewel provided. You need to socket your jewel in your in game, because this is right now Path of Building, and check what you got. So this jewel actually provides bonuses on notables. Notables are these bigger passives with this border, alright. So this is a notable. This is a notable. This is not a notable, alright. This is another notable. So alright, you get the idea. These bigger ones are actually notables. These are all notables. So you want to get a random little pride, stick that in, and check the notables that we are using and see if you got anything good. So I actually got double damage in this, 5% chance of double damage. You can actually edit these in your own Path of Building if you want to calculate your DPS correct. Just right click on that notable, find whatever you got here. I had double damage, that's why I did something like this. Double damage, add. So it actually calculates my DPS right now, and you can see that I have double damage in this Force of Nature. You maybe won't have this. This is probably this number had that double damage. So let's just check what these provide. Alright, double damage, alright. Physical damage, not bad, but still works. Chance to intimidate, which is very good for an archer build. Intimidate is a debuff that actually increases the damage taken by the target by 10%. You also need to check it here to get that DPS. I had another double damage here, and I believe that was it for my character. You can also check this survivalist for some resistances. This is not a bad notable to get. If you get maybe like double damage in this or intimidate, something like that, just also get this one and type something like this again, double damage, and bam, you have more DPS. So alright, just check the notables that we are using in this. So herbalism, equity, maybe with this, but not really sure. You can actually generate frenzy charges with blood rage while mapping, but you cannot generate frenzy charges on a single target. But if you get maybe double damage in this, maybe it worth that 2 points. Maybe you can do that. Heartseeker, survivalist, and forces of nature. Maybe silent steps after the reworks happening in 3.16, but not sure right now because talent tree is again getting changed. Maybe this is not gonna be in this radius, by the way. If they just change talent tree that much, I honestly don't know right now. But that is how we played in 3.15. So if anything changes, don't make any mistakes. Be careful and check the updated Path of Building once the patch is live. So in the end, just get random little prides and just stick it on your talent tree. Check what you got in these notables and edit them in your Path of Building in the end. And that's gonna be your character. You can even use divine orbs to roll little prides, but that's gonna be more expensive, obviously. You can easily sell little prides again in a couple of minutes. People just buy them instantly and try on different sides of the talent tree. Maybe here, this is another popular spot. They also use it here. This is another popular spot. So if you have another character, just also check those little prides on these locations. If you find anything good, just take screenshots and put it on TFT, the Forbidden Discord. Yeah. And you can actually sell those jewels for way more expensive, actually, because people just pay ridiculous amounts for those. So that is another tip for you. We picked watchtowers for additional ballista totems because this is a totem build actually for single target. We just want that extra ballista. This is an important place for that. Anything else? And some cluster jewels, not crazy. These are actually common and not super expensive. Disorienting this, first of all, the base type is a lightning damage type. You can also use attack damage if you want. Get some fuel to fight for some leech, maybe, if anything happens here. Normally, this is where our leech is, thanks to Claw Line I Fall conversion. But you don't need conversion to get the leech, obviously. So anyways, attack leech and mana leech. There is also attack leech here. So if you don't have Line I Fall for some reason, maybe it is expensive, so you cannot get these because that makes no sense. So you will need mana leech actually without this jewel. Just get this. Alright, mana leech. But once you have Line I Fall, you don't need that because this already provides mana leech. Or get an attack cluster with fuel the fight, feed the fury, those kind of stuff. But in the end, I used a lightning damage cluster. 8 points is the best you can get, because it requires less points to spend. Disoriented display, so I can blind enemies and elemental damage. Storm Rider, chance to gain power charge when you shock a shield enemy. Once you have Call of Brotherhood ring, you can, I believe that's how that works. I don't want to make any, yeah, lightning damage convert to cold, so I can also chill and freeze enemies. So with that ring equipped, I can also get power charge when you shock a chill enemy, so that works even on bosses. If you don't have Call of Brotherhood yet, but you can also use a normal Call of Brotherhood without Shaper Influence, that still provides huge DPS, so you will have the Call of Brotherhood anyways. So that is how Storm Rider works in this character. You want that conversion to chill the target. And finally, Snowstorm, again, another synergy with Call of Brotherhood. Lightning damage, extra cold damage against chilled enemies. So this is something that you need to use after getting a Call of Brotherhood. Again, you don't need a Shaper Call of Brotherhood, just get a regular one. It is still very powerful. Let's just also show that here. Call of Brotherhood, not even influenced. We will obviously lose some DPS, but it's still worth in the end. Bam. Yes, because we lost the bonus from this. Actually, that's why this happened. But still decent DPS even without full set. 21 million DPS. It is even more than that because we also have Lightning Arrow. And yeah, that's it. For the Watcher's Eye, I picked lightning damage with Rat and Clarity mana cost reduction. So I have actually a good mana management. If you maybe put mana cost on your jewelry ring and amulet, you can skip this and get a better Rat, maybe a Watcher's Eye, even a double Watcher's Eye, or even get something with Precision plus Rat, maybe something like that, because Precision also has attack speed, crit multiplier, and attack damage modifiers. Just use a level 1 Precision maybe. I am actually using a 21 level, but yeah. So Precision also works on Watcher's Eyes. For medium, I picked Pressure Point, Quick Getaway, a popular combination, double damage, crit strike chance, attack speed, movement speed, crit strike chance on a crit base. 4 or 5 points. Do not get a 6.1 because that's gonna be waste of points. For rare jewels, this is a bow build, attack speed bows, crit multiplier, life, resistances, intelligence is important because red requires 155 intelligence. Level 21 red requires 159 intelligence, so make sure you have that high intelligence somehow. Even get 30 intelligence here. Yes, that is how I played. Or get intelligence on your rare ring. Actually, my ring don't have any intelligence. If you manage to get like 40 intelligence on your ring, that's gonna be a huge lifesaver actually. And another jewel, crit multiplier with lightning skills. Storm Rain and Lightning Arrow both are lightning skills and elemental skills, so you can just focus on elemental lightning multiplier, elemental crit multiplier, or lightning crit multiplier. So they will just that will just benefit to both of the skills. Resistances, life, whatever you can fit in these jewels. Even use abyss jewels with lots of flat lightning damage. Not hypnotic, what's that? Searching eye jewels. Yeah, you can also do that. And I believe that's it. Again, this talent tree will maybe different after the patch is live, so stay tuned for an update. Or just make some terror craft, maybe send me some pet of building so we can work on that. And that's pretty much it. I am not gonna mention Pantheons because they are also getting reworked a lot. But maybe a Brian King is gonna be a popular choice after 3.16 because it's gonna actually provide freeze immunity after the changes. So it's gonna be huge. So a Brian King can be very good. Not sure about the miner right now. One thing about the gems, I actually explained the main setups. I don't want to explain like I am using inspiration, awaken, elemental, blah blah. You know, these are easy to follow. But two things about this section, and that's gonna be end of the video. I normally played with this setup: elemental damage with attacks, inspiration for elemental damage and reduced mana cost, added lightning damage, lightning arrow, alright, chain for additional clear, mirage archer, that is that green archer that shoots projectiles automatically once we start attacking. I just swapped chain because that's not something that we want on a boss fight, with barrage for additional DPS, but I'm gonna explain something right now. As you can see, we actually get millions of DPS with barrage, but we need to be close to the bosses, so it can be a little deadlier on some bosses. Plus, once you use a barrage support, let's just check my attack speed. You actually lose shit ton of attack speed once you have a barrage support enabled. So that means that you actually, your Storm Rain totems actually gonna use Storm Rain less often, because these actually attack once we attack, and if you use barrage, you are gonna be slower. So in that, maybe this was a stupid idea, but most of the bosses were actually with barrage equipped. You just watched that. But in Feared and I believe Sirus, I haven't used barrage. Yeah, because they are actually harder content, and it is impossible for you to shoot barrage on Feared. That's why I actually didn't use Feared barrage in the end. Alright, so maybe don't even use barrage, but just maybe check that. But obviously chain doesn't work. That's why you need to use another gem, another maybe green gem, or maybe have a white color on your item. I believe I used hypothermia. Yeah, because we already chill the targets. Or even use awaken added cold. Void manipulation also works because no, this is a clickbait. No, don't use this. No. This is simply a clickbait, guys. Don't use this. Battle building is just being stupid because we still deal lots of elemental damage. I believe, if I am not stupid, let's just check. Where's lightning arrow? What the There's something wrong right now. Wait. No, why am I checking lightning damage? Yes, we just converted all that to chaos and cold. Yes, we still have lots of cold damage, so maybe void manipulation is not a good option, so don't use that. I actually used hypothermia. Still decent damage with a lightning arrow without even barrage, so maybe this was better in the end. Because chain again doesn't work on bosses, so maybe do this little gem swap, alright, like this, once you are at a big boss. Or even use barrage and test it for yourself. It works, but maybe not that good compared to hypothermia because we have lower attack speed. I just want you to understand everything. I just don't want you to play the build blindly. That's why my guides are sometimes longer than they should be. Helmet setup, already explained this in gear section. Our buffs: red, lightning damage. Enlighten to reduce the mana cost. You can start playing with a 3 level. Use a lower level precision, and bam, problem fixed. Alright, so be smart. Precision for accuracy and some crit strike chance. Herald of Thunder for lightning damage. Mobility skill is dash with second wind. Anomalous is super important. I really like this. +1 cooldown use. I highly recommend you to get an anomalous second wind as soon as possible. Level 1 clarity if you have this Watcher's Eye, alright, to reduce that mana cost. Otherwise, we are not using clarity. That's it. One final thing, I actually forgot that. On your Storm Rain setup, once you afford or once you can find it, your concentrated effect must be anomalous. This is huge, guys, because it provides less area of effect, actually lets the Storm Rains overlap easier. This is very important. Make sure you get an anomalous concentrated effect as soon as possible once it is online. Alright, this is super important. By the way, did I mention that I don't even have helmet enchant? Did I mention that? Yeah, this is a stupid shit overpowered build, guys. let's just finish the build video right now. All right, bye bye. Don't forget to subscribe.